The Republicans have some unease about it no matter what they say, because if the president can declare an emergency on something that he has created as an emergency, an illusion that he wants to convey, just think of what a president with different values can present to the American people. You want to talk about a national emergency? Let's talk about today, the one-year anniversary of another manifestation of the epidemic of gun violence in America. That's a national emergency. Why don't you declare that emergency, Mr. President? I wish you would.
All right, let's recap all this because we're going to host 30 Minutes the next hour, and then best-selling author, former Navy SEAL, really smart guy, Matt Bracken's taken over. He's been hosting a lot. You're going to be guest hosting some next week. Stuart Rhodes here in Texas getting a lot done with Gary Haben and other great patriots. We're not up here trying to be dramatic, and that's my problem. And I keep going back to this mentally to the audience. Everything we ever warned of basically has happened. And now it's almost like, okay, it's real. Let's just all just sit back and see what goes on. No, folks, people need to be focused. They need to be involved. They need to be diligent. And I'm not here saying it's like work. And I'm not complaining at the audience either. It's just that we have to take action because I want you to give your view on this as a smart guy, historian, lawyer, veteran. You're a smart guy. And I mean that for new listeners tuning in. What's the world look like if they win versus if we can hold them back and at least push them back some? Because, you know, evil's an ongoing problem. We're not offering a utopia like Cortez does. You know, you don't have to work or everything's free and there's pie in the sky and chicken in every pot. But a good world, if we become moral again and get engaged versus where we're going.
It would look like Orwell said, vision of the future is the boot stamping on the human face forever. And you can look at northern Mexico and the absolute demonic mass murder that's happening and oppression of the Mexican people by the cartels, and that's your future. That's your future in a communist dictatorship. It's your future in a narco state too, a cartel-run narco state. And you're going to get a combination of those two things. And your future is also what you saw in the caliphate with ISIS. That's your future as well. In fact, all three of those elements are at work in this country right now. You have all three demonic, possessed, totalitarian elements working together to overthrow our constitutional republic.
Why does Christianity, real Christianity, produce so much incredible wealth? Like Tutsis and Hutus, the Christian groups, less than 10%, they have almost all the wealth because Christianity allowed them to not kill each other and produce wealth. You know, beyond IQ, because some high IQ, some low, it's the Christian, real Christian ethos that creates fabulous wealth.
Yeah, the sanctity of the human soul, the sanctity of human life, and the belief that you have a self-determination and that the only person you have to answer to is God, that there's no man-God over you. Communism has a man-God over you, so does the caliphate, and so does the cartel.
I remember being a little young and jealous or envious of things. The only thing I'm still jealous or envious of is, you know, women. And that's genetic. But I was never like mad the neighbor got a new motorcycle, kid got a better motorcycle than I did, or better golf clubs. But it's so freeing now to not get mad that some guy's got a gorgeous wife or a bunch of great kids or more money than me or a private jet. I mean, it's so freeing that I mean, material's fine. I like to be successful and take care of my family, but it means nothing at the end of the day compared to ideas. But then I still run into most adults, and they're just seized up with envy and like, well, your house is a little bigger, or your pool, and it's like, not that any of those things are bad, but to them, it's like that's what they're shooting for, and they're so empty.
Right. Well, it's what the Bible talks about when he says that, you know, a wealthy man will get into heaven much more easier or harder than putting an
camel through the eye of the needle.
Right. Because if you're worshiping just success and you're constantly grasping for more, you'll never be satisfied. What really counts is your everlasting soul. That's what really counts.
And of course, if you really go to the Bible, the historians, Christ was pointing at the Jerusalem wall. It was called the eye of the needle. The thing is a camel, and you had to get on your knees. It was a very small opening. So the point was you got to be humble.
Right.
You can be rich, but you've got to get on your knees and not to God. You can't put the money top.
And that's why I think Christianity is so hated, is because that was the bedrock root of the conviction of our founding fathers to fight and bleed.
They fear the conviction that we serve God, not man.
Right. No king but Jesus. and they were willing to give their life up. And you had wealthy men who were willing, Hancock, for example, who were willing to give up their fortune and risk all. And George Washington was wealthy as well. These are wealthy men. Where are the modern versions of Hancock and Washington and Jefferson?
And as you know, the Brits were able to beat the Boers after a long war by grabbing their families. Many of the founders had their families taken and put on slave ships, starved to death. And they just let their they're like, we're sad, but, they starved to death.
Well, if you have a conviction that what really counts is doing what's right, and that you're willing to give your life and even your family's lives because what really counts is your souls, then you don't give in.
And imagine being in Boston or New York and looking out at ships a mile out and knowing your sons are on that ship being starved to death, and you can't give up.
Right, you can't. Well, because if you do, then everyone loses everything. Even if you want to talk about just here on Earth, you're still talking about posterity, your future posterity.
So why did the founders do that? Literally let their families starve to death instead of giving up. That's powerful.
Right, because they knew that they had to preserve the sanctity of the human conscience and the human soul. Your ability to say yes or no. And someone can kill you, but they can't make you submit to them unless you submit yourself. So
let me ask you this, Stuart. Where are we going? Because Pelosi comes out and threatens to become a dictator. And well, here, let's play the clip. Cue up Pelosi. I mean, you talk about a monstrous person in her fascist dress. Here it is.
The Republicans have some unease about it no matter what they say, because if the president can declare an emergency on something that he has created as an emergency, an illusion that he wants to convey, just think of what a president with different values can present to the American people. You want to talk about a national emergency? Let's talk about today, the one-year anniversary of another manifestation of the epidemic of gun violence in America. That's a national emergency. Why don't you declare that emergency, Mr. President? I wish you would.
Even though gun crime's way down, what do you make of that, Stuart?
Well, it's a scare tactic. What she's trying to say is that, hey, you can't do this, and Republicans should oppose the president because he's opening the door for all kinds of problems. And I've even heard conservatives say, this is a problem, he shouldn't do this because they could do this down the road. If they're advocating something unconstitutional like gun confiscation, then they can't do it under the Constitution. It doesn't matter what Trump does regarding something that's perfectly constitutional. This is why, self-defense of the nation and our borders, repelling an invasion is squarely constitutional. It's one of his duties. So I don't really give much concern for this being a bad precedent for down the road. If they go and try to use a national emergency, so-called, to confiscate firearms, it's unconstitutional, and then we just fight.
Well, I was about to say, but let's expand on that. The left is spoiling for some weird war and all these Antifa wimps. Can they imagine if they do start a war and the veneer of civilization peels away in seconds? Do they understand that everything conservatives and Christians have done to build businesses and to serve their country and their family, that people have already, the public's already scouted everything out. And they don't want to do this, but everybody's going to know the moment. And then I don't think these leftists realize what's going to happen to them.
No, they don't. And I want to stress that I don't want that. Like right now I'm being smeared by Media Matters trying to say that, we talked about murdering leftists on a show prior, and sure. What we talked about is that if there's a civil war, they'll lose, and they'll force us to have to fight.
And they hate that.
Right. So so a lot of them, I think, know it. I think the elites understand they can't go too far too fast. So what they're trying to do is condition us, and they're waiting until one of them is commander-in-chief. They're not going to try something like this while Trump's in. They would prefer, if they're going to have an outright fight with us, they want to make sure that one of them is commander-in-chief. So that's why you got to watch out for a future Democrat as commander-in-chief under those conditions. Like with Hillary, if Hillary had won, I think all bets are off.
No, I agree. They were going to go over the censorship, everything. In fact, they're going ahead with it as if she had won. But here's the thing. I'm not an authoritarian. But when you're faced with authoritarianism, then what do you do? Because the Democratic Party is not an American party. They're a globalist, anti-American party. They say America was never great, it'll never be great. We shouldn't have borders. They're allied with foreign governments. I don't think they qualify as a party that could even be in the electoral system.
Well, what the president can do is he can use the Constitution to suppress the insurrection. He has an open insurrection in the entire state of California. The elected officials there, with their sanctuary state, they're in open rebellion against the laws of the Union. And the clearest law of the Union that's very constitutional is a law against illegal immigration and harboring illegals. They're committing felonies. So what Trump could do is he could prosecute them through the DOJ, but he could also call up the militia to go and suppress the insurrection that's happening right now in California. He could do that. It's a constitutional power. That's the big.
Well, I know everybody I know that lives in California, especially Southern California, they say we're all trying to get out. I mean, it is a freaking hellhole. We're going to go to break, come back and take your phone calls. The toll-free number to join us with Stuart Rhodes is 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539. We're going to take a few-minute break here when we come back and play part of this Alan Dershowitz interview on Tucker Carlson last night, in case you didn't know that they really are trying a 25th Amendment coup against the president. That's now mainstream news. I mean, we told you the emergency was coming. We told you this was going on. We broke it almost a year ago, but now it's all confirmed. Fourth hour straight ahead. Stay with us, 877-789-ALEX. Please don't forget a bunch of big specials in this Sunday, InfoWarsStore.com. Thank you.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Hey, I don't complain about it, but this is a real war. This isn't like your average show, like, oh, we're the cutting edge, oh, the tip of the spear, oh, support us. We are in absolute contention, in war with the globalists. We are taking them on at point-blank range. And if you go to the establishment hotels or go to establishment grocery stores, I don't judge you. We all do it. That's all you can buy from. But if you just get your coffee, organic, high-quality, InfoWarsStore.com, 5 stars, third-party review sites, Wake Up America coffee. If you just get your high-quality, fluoride-free, colloidal silver, iodine-fortified, super blue toothpaste. If you just get your InfoWars Life protein bar, 15 grams of protein, highest quality, they sell the average competitor to $6-7. These are $3 at regular price, $2.40 discounted, 12 packs. We've got them in 2 different flavors. We've got them in vanilla coconut, and we've got them in, of course, peanut butter and chocolate. It's the highest end. It's at a lower price. No reviews yet. We just went on sale today. The hell, the media demonized that. Oh, he sells protein bars now. That's not allowed. 12 bars, $36 instead of $48. It's a huge savings. It funds our whole operation. Please take action. InfoWarsLife.com or InfoWarsStore.com. And there's a big sale ending, by the way, this weekend as well. 50% off on Brain Force Plus, our great nootropic, and, of course, the combo pack, Turbo Force. But whatever you do, fund us, because without you, we're going nowhere. But listen, get your coffee, get your toothpaste, get your protein bar, sign up for auto ship, additional 10% off, and don't worry about it. Know you're funding the InfoWar, a total win-win.